Greetings, everyone. I'm excited to welcome Sam Oliver, founder and CEO at OpenFi. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ben. Good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you. Let's dive right in. Great to have you here. Tell us a little bit about your background.
So, I'm involved in startup businesses for 14 years, both successful ones and failures. My last company was a software company called Lead Pro, and we built marketing automation technology for real estate agents, realtors. We founded that in 2016, and then we grew that to 37% share of the UK market and sold it to a private equity company in 2021. And I then stayed on and until 2023. I am Scottish, although after 10 years in living and working in London, since rubbed off a little bit. So hopefully you can understand me.
Yeah, I can understand you perfectly. So perfect. So startup life, some worked out, some didn't. And can you disclose? I'm curious. Can you disclose like how big you grew Lead Pro before you exited?
Yeah, so we were a team of 14 people and disclosed the exact numbers. It was a multi-million pound cash exit.
Okay. Okay. And how long? I'm curious. How long did you run Lead Pro? From founding to exit.
So from founding to exit was 5 years, but then there was an additional year earn out. So it was about 6 years, which I think trade sale averages 7 to 11 years. So it was slightly faster than the average. However, the previous company that I had run for 3 years, which wasn't successful, was in the same industry. So I did already have expertise and network. Also think exiting a company is affected by the macroeconomic cycle. And 2021 was at the real height of an economy with very low interest, cheap money, a lot of merger activity, M&A activity.
Okay, so exited in 2021 then? Yeah, okay. Because we'll get to some of the standard questions here, but very interesting with that exit. And I'm curious, I help a lot of founders with their finances, metrics, forecasting, all that, the good finance and accounting stuff. And a lot of founders have different goals, right? They just want to scale, grow a big SaaS company. Others have, right, that exit on mind at some point, maybe a trigger or an AR level. And, for you, was it just the opportunity of 2021 and the valuation that you received? Did tell us a little bit about the motivation to exit at that point?
Yeah, original motivation for starting a company was always I enjoy being an operator that builds and solves problems, but I also was very focused on the financials. Think that building a value for society, for customers, and owning equity is, in my opinion, probably the best remuneration that you can possibly have. So there was always a focus on making money from it. There was a period where the company was profitable, and I think my interest was to just keep growing it for the long term and keep growing the business. We then had the COVID pandemic, and all of our customers who were realtors couldn't go out and work and stopped paying us. And we still paid our staff. So it was quite horrendous to go from profitable to losing money. And I had to both get my investors to lend the company money as well as remortgage my own property to put money into the company to keep it going. We were able to build up from that difficult period. And we were super fortunate that the real estate market actually boomed after COVID with lots of people moving house. So for our clients, it was a fantastic time. And we started to have like a record sales year. And it was at the time we got the exit off. And I think having been through that period of taking on so much risk and knowing that small companies are fragile, they're fragile to market conditions, they're fragile to competition. I felt like it was a good time to take off the table. It was a good valuation. It was a good deal. I also knew that if we didn't exit at that period, the next sort of point where we could exit was probably 5 years. And I was kind of keen to cash in my chips, get a win under my belt, de-risk my personal life, and then start a new company fresh from those lessons rather than do another 5 years in the same business.
Okay, great. Yeah, appreciate that insight. Makes a ton of sense. So So let's talk about your current startup, OpenFi. So tell us a little bit about the products and services that OpenFi offers.
Sure. I was really not sure about starting a new company because I
Hmm.
know how much work they are. The more that I played with conversational AI, the more impressed I was with just how good it has become. And in my previous business, we managed millions of leads a year. And the core part of what we did was we put those leads into CRM and track the progression of them. And I was acutely aware that salespeople get overwhelmed with leads and they're not consistent about following up. And you can have a potential prospect that is a good prospect. And if you follow up with them once, twice, they don't buy. If you follow up with them 6 times, they do buy. And there's a lot of statistics around needing to have 7 to 12 follow-ups. And so few salespeople have the capacity, the patience, the tolerance to rejection to do that level of follow-up. And it just struck me that conversational AI has no ego, at least not yet. So it's kind of the perfect tool to be able to build a great conversation with a customer, a scale a business can ramp up and down, and have that consistent follow up. So what we're building at OpenFi is we're automating the SDR or sales representative role. And that is typically the team that are responsible for going out and getting leads and then usually booking those leads into the salesperson's diary. And we have two main focuses. The first is working with companies that have an existing database of, say, 10,000 customers, but they don't have the capacity or infrastructure to reach out to them well. So, for example, they may have a monthly newsletter or they may run a campaign by email. This is a very old fashioned unidirectional broadcast information. It's not a conversation educating the customer and qualifying the customer for a sales opportunity. So what we're looking to do with bound campaigns is contact those customers through WhatsApp because it's a very engaging and personal messaging platform. Having all of those conversations run by a conversation that is using the sales team would normally use when they reach out with a call to action to book into an appointment in the sales team's area. The second use case is with inbound traffic. So a customer we were working with recently, financial services company, they are quite a small company. They're a team of 4 mortgage brokers, and they had over 300 inbound requests for calls. They just didn't have the capacity to follow up with all those business opportunities. So this is the perfect use case to put conversational AI in, respond to all the inquiries, pre-qualify them. So when we work with a customer to set them up, the first thing that we do is we build a knowledge base. So the AI reads all of their website, it reads all of their onboarding documentation, their tone of voice, their brand guidelines, their pricing. And that way, if a customer asks any random obscure question, it has the knowledge to answer it. The second thing that we do is we then codify their sales. So we teach the AI how to pre-qualify a customer and when is the right time to put a customer into the CRM and put them in for a call. And this is where it really differs from a traditional chatbot, which, has 4 multi-choice questions, answers, and breaks if you ask anything random and doesn't nudge you in follow up. So it's really trying to give a superhuman experience, 100% reliable, infallible, consistent SDR that will always follow up.
Yeah, that really interesting. So tell me, that first use case where you said, existing database of customers, maybe some leads, prospects in their database. So at this point in the lead process, are you warming up leads to create a say a lead to pass over to sales in that use case? Or tell us where in that lead process that first use case fits into.
So current clients that we're working with are in financial services. So it
Mhm.
might be a mortgage renewal or an insurance renewal. And some of the statistics are fascinating. There's a lot of companies where industry average is like only 60% of the customers renew with them. And it kind of blows my mind that you already have this business relationship with the customer that's bought from you. You have all of their details and you're still not getting a higher renewal. And there are companies that have got a really good high renewal rate. They're usually the very high end small companies where they have the budget to the capacity to do a great job nurturing customers. So there is a lot of automation in place to start sending information about renewing your mortgage or renewing your insurance, but it's not bespoke. It's not unique to that customer. It doesn't reference any of their details and it's not conversational. So the main thing would be high ticket professional services renewal periods And as far as 6 months out, start a conversation about renewal and engagement and check.
Okay. And then you've mentioned financial services a couple times. So is that the industry that you're targeting first to, I don't know where you are in kind of your PMF journey, but are you focused on financial services first?
So our niche is professional services using Salesforce. For AI to be valuable to a company, it needs to be able to be scalable. If you have an additional 20,000 leads one month or 4,000 leads the next month, you've got to be able to ramp up and to have that level of scalability, you need to be fully integrated with CRM. Otherwise, there's just no point doing it. So if a company is currently not on Salesforce, it's unlikely that we would work with them because we have to be so focused on what we can and can't do a good job
Mhm.
of. Professional services, if they are a business with over 10,000 monthly website visitors and they're selling products that are $5,000 in product or service value, then it becomes a good fit to put in this SDR role. The uplift that they'll get in conversions makes a compelling use case to. It's not wildly expensive, but it's not cheap either. It starts at £2,000 a month and then scaled by volume usage. We're working with a lot of mortgage brokers purely because we have some very good contacts in that industry. So the first company that we signed up was a UK PLC. We have a couple of lenders we're working with and a couple of brokers that are working with. We specifically designed this technology to be industry agnostic. So we're also just beginning the discovery with a company that does waste collection. Yeah, real estate companies, a marketing company, a coaching company, any company that is on Salesforce wants to
Mm.
scale up the SDR role and in more calls is a good fit for us.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like a lot of opportunity there. We know Salesforce global CRM, so and a lot of firms with high ticket values. So yeah, appreciate that insight. So some facts and figures here. So you founded the company in 2023 or this year?
So I actually created the legal entity last summer, but we didn't get the team together until February of this year. So the legal company was last year. We started working full time on the business this year.
Okay, so really early 2024 starting the company then. So early in the journey. So do you guys have a headquarters location or are you guys virtual?
We're headquartered in London, but the team is disparate.
Okay. Yeah. And then what's your current team size?
We're currently a full time team of 6.
Okay. And then are you in the pre-revenue stage or are you generating revenue at this point?
We are pre-revenue, so we have signed paid pilots, and the first customers go live in September.
Okay. Okay.
I was speaking to our CTO this morning, and he said this summer was hell because we've been doing a huge amount of work to get ready for that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's exciting. September right now we're late August, so that's coming up soon. So that's great. So tell us, interesting because you're in the you could say kind of sales space, helping people with their lead flow, their pipeline. How about your pipeline? How does your go to market motion work at this stage of the business? I know it could change down the road, but how is it working now to find those initial pilots?
One of the huge benefits of being third time is that you have network and you have credibility. So initial customer conversations have all come from my existing network. We actually signed the first contract before we even had a website live, and having been in startups for a long time, I know how important it is to include the customer at the very beginning of the product development process to ensure you're actually building something of value from them. It is very difficult to sell a brand new technology, particularly AI, because people are very risk adverse and there's a lot of concerns around risk and compliance when it comes to AI. And what we really need is we need pilots to run exceptionally well. We need case study data so that we can show the does what we say it does. We've already conducted tests, getting some big halo customers, big PLC businesses that completely recognized will be huge. In terms of our longer term growth strategy, one of the key things that I've learned is the importance of niching, or in the US, niching down and being very specific about who you will and won't work with so that you can do a great job of onboarding and supporting them. So for us, the key focus is Salesforce and professional services. So we've been able to target customers are on Salesforce And then the main process that we run is we look for the sales director, head of marketing, or CEO of one of those Salesforce companies using Salesforce. And then we're reaching out to them on LinkedIn and we're doing cold outreach. And really well in our last business. We grew fantastically by doing those very targeted campaigns. I think the key thing there is doing small volume. So this is not spamming 5,000 people via email. This is doing a lot of research. I know Salesforce, I know website traffic, I already know your sales process. To the extent, if it's a really good company, actually already training the AI with their knowledge base. So setting up a demo where it's like, look, here's a demo that you can actually play with. You can ask about your company and run through an example sales process. And that is more time expensive for large enterprise deals. It's worth it.
And do you find in these conversations now it helps, right, with your background, multiple time founder, exited, that is there any sort of AI fatigue in these conversations where everybody like AI tools are popping up all over, everybody says AI, or is that just, a given and they don't really, care that this is AI driven? Is there any conversation around that when you talk to a new prospect?
I think there are pros and cons of being AI related. One of the pros is that it is in discussion. So I speak to CEOs and marketing directors and they say, our shareholders want to know our AI strategy. The board wants to know our AI strategy. So it's good that there's a pressure and there's an interest in them being able to say, hey, this is how we're adopting AI. On the other side of that coin is there are worries about compliance and risk of AI. And there's a lot of people in the larger businesses where that board level push means that the CTO or CIO is reviewing what their plan is. So I speak to companies where they're like, love this. In 6 months, we'll be ready to make a decision. We're also speaking to Google. We'll do something in-house. We're not exactly sure if we're going to build this, if we're going to buy this, if we're going to rent this. So in some ways, I don't think it's fatigue. I think it's more early. Okay, it's very early, and these companies are just beginning to think how they're going to respond and implement the new technology.
Yeah, and that's fascinating because I think, and I'm hearing that too, of just the conversations coming up where, yeah, the board stakeholders need to know that the company's not going to get passed by if there are efficiency gains, improvements that they can gain using AI, that we're not just ignoring it, but we're looking at what that roadmap for AI within our org. So that's very fascinating. So tell us, so and then on the con, so worried about compliance risk makes sense. And, so let's switch to the fundraising side. How much capital have you raised to date?
So we've raised £500,000, which I think is $650,000.
Okay. So 500,000 pounds. And then one quick question with Lead Pro, was that bootstrap till that exit, or did you raise with Lead Pro?
Raised with Lead Pro, but we only raised angel funding. We did two small rounds and we raised 350,000 of angel funding. And we also got some funding from innovation competitions, which was 150. So we raised about 500,000 for that business as well.
Okay. So about 500,000 pounds pre-seed round. And did you know that you were going to raise? Was that just part of the process when you were forming this company?
Originally, it wasn't. Originally, I considered self-funding the business and just retaining all of the equity. We actually, when we were running this business at the start, we were considering being an AI mortgage brokerage. It's one of the reasons that we have a lot of mortgage leads, and the name of the business stands for Open Financial Intelligence, and it was going to be teaching people about how to get a mortgage. And when we were testing that, we realized that to build that business, we would need really high customer acquisition costs, need a lot of marketing spend. And that was when I decided to raise that money, was to have the marketing budget to consumer brand. What we learned the very bit was that actually the market is just too small. It's an exceptionally competitive market, and the cost of acquiring customers and building that, it's not valuable. And what excites me most about business is when you're building really awesome solutions that help people. And the core component of our thesis for being competitive in the mortgage business was this conversational AI piece of being able to do a better job at speaking to the leads and booking them in for calls. So then I realized Why do all of the more brokerage stuff? Why not just sell this really neat conversational AI piece to businesses that have this problem? And then we can scale much, much larger. And, when we look at the number of Salesforce customers, professional services, it's over 430,000 businesses using Salesforce professional services. And that's not the entire universe of market that we could eventually go after. This is over 100 billion a year market opportunity. So it's much more exciting to go for the B2B SaaS play.
Yep. So going B2B. And in that pre-seed raise, any lessons learned? You've been living the startup life, multiple startups. So any lessons learned in that process that you'd like to pass on to other founders who are just in early stages, maybe bootstrapping, maybe thinking about a pre-seed round, maybe not. So anything you can pass on there?
I have mixed feelings about fundraising. I think fundraising is essentially sales. And the risk is the founding team are pitching and trying to sell equity to investors. The signal and the noise that they hear back is what the investor thinks about the market, which can be very different from what the market you actually want to sell to wants to buy. I also think the opportunity cost of going out and doing that sales work to investors is you're not going out and selling to customers. If there is a way for you to bootstrap and sell directly to customers, I much prefer it, particularly for product focused businesses where they can go on Kickstart, can promote, they can raise the money in it before they have to build it. I think it's much better than fundraising with angel investors or VCs. Said, having capital allows you to go faster. We all have limited lifetime. If I was trying to play football against another team and they had a full team and there was just me, they're going to beat me, and your competition's well resourced. So you want to be a good quality team that can pick up all the roles. And there is a certain activation energy of team members that you need to be able to go out and get things moving. Fundraising is just difficult. It is hard. Even with a successful exit, it's still hard. It's just being good at selling people the fear of missing out and the urgency and the opportunity. Yeah.
Well, appreciate that insight and that perspective. I mean, everyone says, fundraising is a full-time job. You're either in it or you're not. There's no halfway. So appreciate that. So Sam, at this stage of your business, just founded earlier this year, got some pilot customers going live soon. Do you have a favorite number or metric that you're focused on currently to guide your business at this stage?
Oh, that is a fantastic question. Every week we meet on a Monday morning and we our sales figures. And the moment the sales figures are about monthly recurring revenue, and that's the metric for us.
Okay. Okay. So looking at that MRR, which is a popular founder metric, MRR, ARR, depending on how you look at it. So appreciate that. So Sam, as we wrap up here, what I know probably a lot coming up for OpenFi, but what's coming up next for the company?
The We've worked very hard for the last few months to build like a robust piece of technology, and we've run that balance between perfect is the enemy of good, and you should launch something before it's ready, but also you're dealing with real customers and real consumers and real data and compliance and reliability and wanting to make sure that you have something that's robust and scalable. And I'm super excited for our launch. I think at the end of the year, we'll have some mind blowing case studies to share. And from that, it'd be about scaling up. Our ambition, if we were to catch up this time next year, would be that the number one conversational AI app in the Salesforce App Store. And while at the moment the onboarding process is very much our team will set for you, I would love to see us get to the scale where Salesforce or authorized companies that are being set people up are, busy setting technology for them because we're best in class.
Well, that's great. Yeah, a lot of good stuff there. And yeah, we'll have to have you on, say, a year from now, check in, see how things are going. We'd love that. So, well, Sam, really appreciate your time today, sharing your journey. And if listeners would like to learn more about OpenFi, where should we send them online?
Yeah, come to openfi.tech. So openfi.tech.
Okay, perfect. So check out OpenFi or openfi.tech to learn more. And again, Sam, appreciate your insight and sharing your journey.
Thanks so much, Ben.